Hello everyone. Today I'm here to recommend 9 thriller books to you that I have read and really enjoyed. Let's get right into it. So I've got 9 for you, so we gotta just dive in. There's no time to chat. Let's start with the first one that I want to recommend to you. This is Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. This is such a strange thriller because it feels like you read 2 different books almost while reading this book. This follows a woman named Rachel. We follow her before a breakdown and after a breakdown. At one time in her life, she is an incredibly, amazing journalist on the front lines, very busy woman. She has a bit of a breakdown and she ends up, staying at home and not really being able to leave her home. Luckily, she has a very understanding husband. She's married a wonderful man who, gets it and encourages her to stay at home. But is he everything that she thinks he is? That is the question. I really enjoy Dennis Lehane's writing. Very, very good writer. I've read Shutter Island by him, and also Since We Fell. I have quite a few others of his on my shelves that I still need to get to, but I would definitely recommend Since We Fell. I would also recommend to you an Irish author. This is Lying in Wait by Liz Nugent. Liz Nugent writes characters who are deplorable human beings. I don't know how she gets into their heads and stays there quite a while, enough to write a whole book. And in this book, we're following a couple of, fairly nasty characters. In this book, we follow a husband and wife who kill a woman named Annie and bury her in their back garden. Now, they don't want to, make too much of a scene because they have a teenage son they want to keep this from. Of course, there is a person out there looking for Annie. Her sister, I believe, Karen, is spending all of her time trying to track down Annie, who has had a really rough life, and will stop at nothing to find her. And the characters in here are so unlikable, but it's so wonderful to read. I really, really enjoyed it, especially the wife. Oh my goodness, she is twisted. Next, we've got Alice Feeney's His and Hers. This is her latest book that she's come out with, and I really enjoyed it, especially the second half of the book. This is about a husband and wife who are separated. They're no longer together. They don't even live together. They've moved to different locations. The husband in this couple is a police investigator, and he is on a case where a woman has been found murdered, and he is connected to her. And then, of course, his ex-wife, or soon-to-be ex-wife, is also on the case because she is a journalist. And she's recently been kind of ousted from her cushy job as a journalist, doing a morning show. She's no longer able to do that because someone's come back from maternity leave and she has to go out into the world again. And she's sent by her boss to go back to her hometown where she grew up and sort through this murder case. Now, she knows this woman who's been murdered as well. And it goes back and forwards in time into her childhood, well, I want to say teenagehood, and you meet her as a teenager and all of this cast of characters. It's like Mean Girls, an unexpected Mean Girls revisitation in this book. I really enjoyed it. There was a scene at the end that scared the crap out of me, genuinely gave me chills. I really enjoyed it. Alice Feeney, man. The next book is probably one of the grossest and grittiest thrillers I have ever read, but I do love it. It's The Chestnut Man. Now, this is written by the person who created The Killing. I don't know if you watched that TV show. It's very, very dark in a wonderful way. And in this book, we are following, well, a serial killer essentially, who is going around and murdering people in gruesome ways. Now, I want to say, don't go into this if you don't like a little bit of blood or a lot of blood. It's really descriptive. So he goes around killing people, and he leaves these little chestnut men, which is this craft that Danish kids, I guess, do in the fall. They create little chestnut men, and he leaves them at his crime scenes. Now, they discover a fingerprint on one of those chestnut men. And the fingerprint belongs to a girl who went missing a year ago. Everyone thought she was dead. Is she dead? How did her fingerprint land on this little chestnut man? And you dive in, you follow a series of detectives trying to find the chestnut man. You also follow the woman of, the mother, I should say, of that girl who went missing. She is a political figure. I really enjoyed it. It's a chunky book, like 500 pages. I could not put this down. Could not. Next up is Dead Girls. This is a thriller that meets horror because there is a paranormal element to this book. This follows a little girl, Tara. Her best friend in all the world, Billy, was found murdered. And Tara decides that she is going to find the killer herself. She's not waiting for the police to do the work. She's going to do it for them. And there is some paranormal elements to this. So if you don't like that in your thrillers, you won't like this. But I really enjoyed it. I ended up really liking Tara and really rooting for Tara. I just thought it was wonderful. And it says, how far would you go for your best friend? Tara would go really far. The next books that I want to mention, I don't have physically, but I will mention them here, of course. The Marsh King's Daughter is a very twisty-turny book about a girl who lives with her father out in the wilderness. He is, training her essentially all of her life. He has trained her to live off the land. However, he is a twisted man, and she finds herself needing to get away from him. She does eventually get away from him in her adult life, but then she discovers that he might be tracking her down. It was a lot of fun. I very much enjoyed that one. I also enjoyed The Silent Patient. This is hit or miss for a lot of people. I enjoyed it. This follows a man who is like a therapist, essentially. He is very intrigued by a new patient that he's taken on, who essentially shot her husband in the face like 5 times or something. He passed away. And she stopped talking. After she did that, she completely stopped talking. Before, she was like this very renowned artist, and she refuses to explain why she did what she did, what happened, and this doctor has decided to get to the bottom of it, that he will absolutely get to the bottom of it, and you dive into the story. I thought it was a lot of fun, but it's very hit or miss. Some people love it, some people hate it. It'll be up to you to see where you land on that. I also want to recommend The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. This is more mystery than thriller, and I wish I'd known that going in because I was expecting really fast-paced story, but it's a little more of a slow burn. Ruth Ware, in this story, we essentially follow this woman who is very much down on her luck. Like, she is living paycheck to paycheck, and her paycheck really comes from being a tarot card reader. So she's never guaranteed a paycheck, and she's really struggling. And she gets a letter in the mail that says that her grandmother, I think, died, and she's meant to come to the funeral because she's listed in the will. And she's like, my grandmother didn't die, but I'm going to go anyway and hope that I get something from the will. And so she goes and she meets this woman's family who this woman has left behind. And there's a cast of very interesting characters in it. It's a very rainy, dark book that I would recommend, especially for like either the spring or the fall, I think is a good time to read that one. And last but not least is Riley Sager's Home Before Dark. This is a bit of a blend between horror and thriller. This follows a girl who is someone who renovates old homes and then resells them. And she recently has discovered that her father, who has passed away, has left her one of the homes that she grew up in. And she thought this was surprising because she thought her father had gotten rid of the house after the horrifying nature of what happened in that house. They lived there over the course of, oh my gosh, maybe like a week, something very short. And they had to leave because it was haunted. Her dad actually wrote a best-selling book about the haunting that they experienced and why they had to leave very suddenly. And she doesn't believe in any of that. She does not believe it. She doesn't remember having anything terrifying happen in any way, shape, or form when she was there as a kid. So she's like, whatever, I'm gonna go and spruce it up and sell it. Like, I'm done with this stupid house. And she goes, and then things start happening. It is a lot of fun for sure. So I would recommend all of these books. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these, if you've loved them, hated them. Gosh, you know, if you need to vent. I'd love to know what you think of them all. And I will chat with you soon. Bye, guys.